things are possible I have found. For when my chin is on the ground, I pick myself up, dust myself off, start all over again. Don't lose your confidence if you slip. Be grateful for a pleasant trip and pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. Work like a soul inspired till the battle of the day is won. You may be sick and tired, but to be a man, my son, will you remember the famous men who had to fall to rise again? So take a deep breath, dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and start all over again.
What's up, guys? It's me, Shaggy or Shagster, whatever you would like to call me. In this video, we are discussing the case of the UNLV shooting in Las Vegas, Nevada. UNLV is the university of the city I live in, and at the time of this video was 7 months ago, so really recently. Since I'm going to college real soon, and the gang at Mystery Incorporated are also going to college.
Stop it, Shaggy. I'm not stupid. Cheating on me.
I decided to make a video about this event. Really, I am not coming here though. Instead, I am going to community college because of this economy and Biden, but let's not make this political.
Biden blast!
But anyways, just enjoy the video. The shooter in this tragedy was named Anthony Polito, which he looked like this. Anthony Polito was born in 1956, and not much is sourced about his childhood, but we do know that he then graduated in Fuqua Business School at Duke University in 1991, and as well earned his PhD in philosophy in the University of Georgia, but what forever reason, decided to go teaching at Eastern Carolina University as a professor assistant. Seriously though, why do the most well-educated, most time spent in school, always end up in education to well get paid so low? My math and science teachers, Walter White. Speaking of Walter White, these two have a lot in common than you think. Just listen. Anthony Polito had a website as well called TonyPolito.com, which unfortunately was deleted, but according news sources in the website, he had his resume for job applications and would blog and discuss many things from murder cases and even talking down about students and professors. In his resume, he wrote to employers, "There is political turf fighting, ignoble actions, pettiness, insularity. Sometimes intellectual ideas are borrowed, even though we would decry that behavior in students. Though the halls are not perfect, academics must strive to make them so as best they can," he said. That is because one of the greatest responsibilities we hold is that we should strive to model to students the highest citizenry possible. This so that students can see and understand it. This so students can appreciate the value of it. This so students can aspire to practice it as best they can throughout the balance of their lives. These halls are best reserved, not for those short in moral character, but for those who intend to mold it. Speaking of which, in the blogs, he talks very narcissistic and very much thinks he is the best, because according to the website, he was obsessed with positive feedback on the websites, like Rate My Professor, and would post 29 pages of straight that on his website. According to a student who had him, if he got negative feedback, he would find out first who did it and then proceed to show it in front of the class, which made many students very uncomfortable. This was such a mean move, and personally, if it was me, I would not like him at all. Just look at his face. Doesn't he look like a teacher who would just annoy you? I mean, an old man doing this is so childish. I mean, really, you jump up and down over a positive review of yourself? That is very egotistical, which is not good at all. Another piece of evidence that he was egotistical is that he thinks that he solved the Zodiac killer. In his website, he explained in a 15-page document, yes, 15 pages, He solved a cryptic message. He said he is someone to self-satisfy his intellectual superiority complex, a complex that required him to constantly prove to himself and others that he was more clever than lesser minds, which could be talking about him, but it's unknown. There are tons of photos and links as well related to Area 51, Jack the Ripper, the JFK assassination, and the 2001 anthrax attacks, which is really weird and could be related to the massacre and wanting to make it in the history books before he ended his life. In his website, he as well showed a tutorial on how he built his own computer, which, interestingly enough, is his only criminal charge for computer trespassing, which in the 2000s was illegal. So, yeah. People who had his class said that he was a weird guy and rambled a lot about his personal life and what's been going on to the class rather than teaching. Seems to me he was one of those teachers that was basically a free day and just wait until the class is over while the teacher yaps the whole time, but I digress. He was also a bit different when teaching class because according to Paul Whittington, a former student to his class, said that he talked about the syllabus to the class for 4 out of the 16-week class, which was pretty weird because from him, most professors are done with the syllabus in the first day of school, which if you don't know a syllabus is basically the tutorial of how the class is going to work, which teaching that for 4 weeks is a bit unorthodox. Some of his rambling sessions would be about talking about Las Vegas and how much he was obsessed with the city. Some things he would talk about would be gambling, Area 51, and why he would love to live there.
He was very popular. His class was a little unorthodox. He was known for not giving a lot of tests. He was known for not taking attendance. But he was very unorthodox in the sense that he spent a lot of his time talking about Las Vegas. I, for one, found this class to be very frustrating because, it was a Tuesday, Thursday class. We spent the first 4 weeks of the class talking about nothing but the syllabus, listening to tangents about things that he had done, and then spent the next 10 weeks just talking about all his trips to Las Vegas. And it was a little uncomfortable at times because if you look at his website, there's tons of positive reviews on Rate My Professor or whatever. Like I said, he was very popular, but he really fixated on the negative comments that he got, and he would read those off in class and try to, even though they were anonymous comments that were left with the university and were given to him as feedback, he would read those comments in class and try to basically remember which students didn't like him and try to recall them in class and tell you exactly where they sat and kind of tell you what kind of student they were. And that was always a little unnerving and uncomfortable.
You can see he loves to yap about off-toppy things about his hobbies, and this teacher would be one of those teachers who occasionally was cool, but as well, a really harsh teacher. And don't know why the teachers with the most time dedicated to their degrees always are the harshest ones? I don't know, must be an egotistical thing that most of these teachers and professors have in common. In 2012, a woman at ECU took his class during her senior year, and she was getting uneasy feeling towards Polito, and apparently to her, Polito would give gifts and would help her with her resume. The woman said Polito would try to have contact with her every day for nearly the entire semester through emails and texting. The woman said by the end of the semester, he invited her to Las Vegas. Although Polito never tried to touch her or do anything creepy, Polito was her professor, and at least many decades older than her, which by this time she was in her early 20s, at least. She didn't report it, considering that he was well-liked by everyone, and she didn't want to ruin that or him wanting get revenge, so she stayed silent. Another woman back in ECU was the property manager of which the apartments Polito was living in, and who's named Kimberly Chatelain Flint described Polito as a friendly guy who would often get a little too personal, which made her uncomfortable. He would enter the office and chat with her a lot. And apparently the last time she ever saw him, he gave gifts from Las Vegas, specifically souvenirs from the Hotel Mirage. I say these because it seems like, although Polito is a nice person, He was unsuccessful with getting a girlfriend, and it seemed like every girl he tried to get ended up failing, which could be also a motive for the shooting he would do. In 2017, Polito ended up applying for many job applications in Las Vegas, but with no luck. So he settled on Henderson specifically as a business professor at Roseman University of Health Science, where he taught from 2018 to 2022. He was then fired because the university discontinued its business program, and Polito came back to North Carolina, where he then unsuccessfully applied to other teaching jobs in Nevada, but were unsuccessful. Somewhere in 2023, he finally got his dream of moving to Las Vegas. However, life was apparently rough on him because after the shooting, police found an eviction notice taped to his door, which probably was the last straw for Polito. So on December 6, 2023, he decided to begin a massacre at the university, at where he had always wanted to teach in the city that was his favorite. In the morning of the shooting, Polito wrote 22 letters with return address and delivered them to the Henderson post office, and each one was given out to presumably many universities across the country to which he applied to, and according to police, the first one had white powder stuff which was talc and was harmless. He just wanted to scare people. In each of the letters, he referred to himself as Dr. 160 IQ and would threaten the universities in the letters and would end the letters with the word capiche. The reason why he wrote these letters was to give these letters to former and current professors that he worked with and would claim things like having sex with minors, domestic violence, and, quote, ruining students' minds. He apparently had as well a list of students and professors at UNLV, but none were shot during the shooting. At 11:28 a.m., Polito parked his Lexus 2007 car near the Frank and Estella Beam Hall at the southern part of the university, which is connected to the business sector of the campus. And with him, there were photos with detailed descriptions of his hit list. With him, he took out his 9mm Taurus handgun, legally bought in 2022, and had 11 magazines with him to shoot with. At 11:33 a.m., Polito entered the Beam Hall and began shooting throughout the computer labs. And I guess since the hall had mostly empty space on the first floor, he would get more targets. Jordan Eckerman, 25, said he was in his business law class in a second-floor classroom when he heard a loud bang that he thought came from a neighboring music class. But then a piercing alarm went off, sending students to their feet. Some ran from the room in panic, while others heeded their professor's instructions to stay calm, said Eckerman. Between 11:34 to 11:44, Polito would go up and down the stairs between floors, killing assistant accounting professor Patricia Navarro Velez, business professor Cha-Jan Chanj, and Japanese studies associate professor Naoko Takemaru. He as well critically injured a visiting professor at the 5th floor of the hall. From all the sources, I tried to get their name, but none were giving out the name, but we know only one person was injured. At 11:45, police were at the scene and cleared out the nearby buildings, trying to figure out which building the shooter was in. During the evacuation, many people took videos, and one of the professors said this: "It was terrifying. I can't even begin to explain," Martin said. "I was trying to hold it together for my students and trying not to cry, but the emotions are something I never want to experience again." Martin said she was texting friends and loved ones, hoping to receive word a suspect had been detained. When another professor came to the room and told everyone to evacuate, they joined dozens of others rushing out of the building. Martin had her students pile into her car and drove them off campus. "Once we got away from UNLV, we parked and sat in silence," she said. "Nobody said a word. We were in utter shock." Students in the community were alerted to the emergency by a university post on X that warned, "This is not a test. Run, hide, fight." Matthew Felson said he and about 12 classmates barricaded their door in a building near the student union. At 11:55, police were at the scene, and Polito knew this. So he went back into the first floor and engaged in a gunfight with the police. Polito was struck multiple times and fell to the floor. Eckerman said when he walked out and locked eyes with a law enforcement officer in a bulletproof vest holding a long gun. Clothing, backpacks, and water bottles lay scattered on the floor. Eckerman said he said to the officer, "Where do I go?" The officer pointed to an exit. Minutes later, when he was outside, Eckerman said he heard bursts of gunshots, totaling at least 20 rounds. The air smelled of gunpowder. He said he kept walking away from campus even though he didn't know where to go. At 11:56, police successfully captured and arrested Polito, but he bled to death before making it in the police car. Police evacuated all the people inside of the Beam Hall, and the injured professor made their way out of the building and was transported to Sunrise Hospital. In the end of the shooting, 3 are dead and 1 is injured, and UNLV eventually canceled all classes till the next semester due to the event. It is clear that this event scarred many and made more people terrified, and this shooting was a major shooting after the Las Vegas shooting in 2017, which most likely was another inspiration for the shooting to happen. So in the end, what was the motive? Well, a mix of a few things. Firstly, Polito, despite being very cocky and smart, he was denied many jobs for teaching, which in this age is a very serious problem, as you can tell. Secondly, he was already fascinated by mysteries and murder. I'm not saying he was directly influenced by those to do this, but it is definitely imagination that he wanted to fulfill. According to Dr. Dana Anderson, a forensic psychologist, said Polito appears to be desperate and punitive. She said, "You can tell his world is getting smaller and smaller," said Dr. Anderson. "He's very obsessive, clearly, and compulsive. There's a theme of revenge or retaliation, and just blaming everyone else for everything that's happening all around him." Sadly, these letters definitely were a cry for help. What she is referring to is that Polito was struggling mentally and had serious issue because he was quick to blame others for what is happening to him. And the letters he sent were a big factor to that too. Since he was probably suicidal by 2020, and he really wanted to hurt other professors who wronged him, although none of the victims knew who Polito was, he killed them anyways. In a letter made by UNLV after the shooting, they said, "Rebel recovery also acknowledges the outpouring of community support. There were many small businesses and restaurants on the outskirts of campus who took in scared students during the lockdown. The Strip responded with the messages of solidarity on their marquees and offers of food and rooms for students and families in need. In social media, students shared gratitude for the individuals who helped them: faculty, staff, fellow rebels, and complete strangers. The support continued in the weeks that followed. Hundreds of people have contributed more than $400,000 to UNLV's emergency fund and to the scholarship funds to honor professors who were killed." At start the following spring semester, tribal nations members traveled from throughout the region to hold a private cleansing ceremony in Beam Hall before sharing traditional song, prayers, and a smudging ceremony for all. The event culminated with a communal circle dance in which more than 100 faculty and students joined hands with the tribal members. The event underscored the power of gathering together to heal. "I've seen a community shine bright with love, support, and encouragement," Whitfield said. "As I've said since I arrived at UNLV more than 3 years ago, it's as true as ever today. This is a very special community. Together, we are UNLV strong." They as well said that all the doors and rooms that were destroyed during the shooting were going to be replaced, and the building is going to get a remodel very soon. And yeah, that's the whole shooting. So, what do I think of the shooting out of 5 stars? Were the shooter's motives reasonable or just plain dumb? I give it 3 stars because although finding a job is hard, I don't think you should shoot up entire university and end up killing innocent people justifies your reasoning.